Like many Broncos fans, I convinced myself on draft night that I was thrilled with the pick of Bo Nix, but deep down I was like, oh, JJ, we could have got him for a fourth and a fifth. But more and more people have just been coming to the defense of this pick. We saw CJ Stroud say how great he thought it was going to be. We saw Dez Bryant. We saw RGIII. And more of these insiders keep coming in and just talking about what a fantastic pick this is. The Denver Broncos got the quarterback that Sean Payton wanted. And I'm talking like wanted more than Drake Maye, wanted more than Jaden Daniels, probably wanted more than any single person in this draft other than Caleb Williams. Let's break it all down today. If you're new to this channel, my name is Ben. Break down all things Denver Broncos. It is amazing to have you along for the ride. So Adam Schefter has a great podcast I listen to. You remember Adam Schefter is a Denver dude. I grew up reading him in the Rocky Mountain News when it used to be a paper and the Denver Post, and he was on 850 KOA for a long time. And he came out and talks about one of our most dreaded rivals, Phillip Rivers, who worked out both Drake Maye and worked out Bo Nix. Let's hear what Adam Schefter says that Phillip Rivers said, which is really, really telling. Also, we see that the Minnesota Vikings, who ended up drafting J.J. McCarthy, also made a massive push to the New England Patriots, including both of those first-round picks and another at least first-round pick, and probably one more, because even the Minnesota Vikings didn't actually want J.J. McCarthy. And I really think that Sean Payton's all-out blitz, talking about spending 5 hours with him, George Payton kind of corroborating that story and like playing the part and being like, oh, I wish Sean Payton hadn't told everyone how much we like him. We then see Peyton Manning come out the next day on the Brandon Stokely show and say, I know the Broncos really like JJ, and now it's come out that Peyton Manning is in the Broncos facility all the time, talking to George Payton all the time. So he kind of was a plant pushing this narrative that the Broncos wanted JJ McCarthy, when all along I am seeing more and more really solid LinkedIn people say that Bo Nix was our guy all along. Let's listen to what Phillip Rivers told Adam Schefter.
One of the people he called in advance was Phillip Rivers, who was working with Drake Maye and Bo Nix down in Alabama. And Phillip Rivers really was impressed with Drake Maye, but Phillip Rivers was really impressed with Bo Nix. He's like, Sean, this guy can spin it. And Sean, this guy's bigger than I thought. And Sean, this guy's a better quarterback than I thought. So I think Sean Payton and the rest of the Broncos are thinking, wait. Phillip Rivers is working with this guy here down in Alabama, and he sees what we see, which led them to go into the tape and break down all the throws even more. And by the time the draft rolled around, and I tweeted this out after the draft, Sean Payton felt the same way about Bo Nix that he did about Patrick Mahomes in the 2000s. Now, Sean Payton was calling around.
So, I mean, it's one thing to read it in a tweet from Schefter that Sean Payton felt the same way about Bo Nix than he did about Patrick Mahomes. But, yeah, you just see, like, who better to evaluate the quarterback position than Phillip Rivers, who didn't rely on insane athleticism. Every time I saw his, like, shot put style, I'm like, how are we not stopping this guy? Because he isn't a Patrick Mahomes, a crazy athlete, but he always put the ball exactly where it needed to be. Someone in my live stream, and I went back to try to read who said it because I thought it was like the best comment ever, and I couldn't find the username, but someone said, what if Bo Nix is the Nikola Jokic of the Denver Broncos? And you look at Jokic, and if you saw him in the YMCA, you'd be like, yeah, I don't want that guy on my team. But he's the MVP of the league, and he's leading the Denver Nuggets towards what could be a back-to-back championship in Denver, not because of his athleticism, but because of what's going on between his ears, because of his smarts, because he knows that the ball is always faster than the person, and that if you put the ball in the right spot, you're good. So then Joel Klatt has come out recently and made a bunch of appearances. Joel Klatt watches a ton of college football, and what Joel Klatt says is that really Russell Wilson and Sean Payton were like water and oil. They just did not work together because what works best in a Sean Payton system is having 5 guys out in a route and the quarterback making a read and putting the ball where it needs to be, whereas what Russell Wilson did well, he comes in here and says, basically he says what Russell Wilson does is, waits around, chucks it deep, and that isn't what works in a Sean Payton system. And so here it is right here. Russell wants to throw the ball deep, hold it, throw it downfield, a max protect, big play action, and that's not what Sean Payton wants to do. So then you take a look at some of these stats that have been trending on Pro Football Focus, and this is a graph that I downloaded. I did not rank this by Bo Nix. Like, this is the ranking that it has, and if you take a look at some of these rankings, it is insane to look at his accuracy, that he was 85% accurate, his average depth of target was 6.8%. So this was or 6.8 yards per average depth of attempt. So this was the big knock on him, was like, yeah, a lot of his balls are little dump offs, and that doesn't work in the NFL. Like, look, we really want Drake Maye because his average depth of target is 11 yards. But what Sean Payton and his analytics dudes did was they threw out all of those little dump offs, those little plays that you don't run in the NFL. And even with all of those out of there, Bo Nix is still the dude and still is the most accurate quarterback in college football history. Other thing that we heard Sean Payton say was that quarterbacks in college football who tend to get sacked a lot and sacked even more when they're in the NFL. And so this was another thing here, that the pressure to sack percentage ratio, meaning when they are pressured, how often do they end up getting taken to the ground and sacked, which truly is a medium for like how fast can you process and do you see the blitz coming before it comes. And just looking at this, that on only 7.6% of pressures was Bo Nix actually sacked, and that is going to be a really, really good stat for us going forward, because I just think that means that Bo Nix is going to read the entire field, that Sean Payton is going to draw up routes, and we don't need a Justin Jefferson. We need a slant god who can just be open every time. We don't need a Jerry Jeudy. We got Josh Reynolds. We got Troy Franklin. We got Cortland Sutton. We got Tim Patrick. We got Vele. We got a healthy tight end. We saw that Sean Payton doubled down. We didn't get a tight end in the draft, meaning Sean Payton thinks that that Greg Dulcich is going to be healthy going into next year, and that's really good. And I just cannot help but look at all of these past quarterback classes. And one of my biggest pet peeves, and all of my friends at work are like, oh, you got the 6th best quarterback in the draft. You're probably really excited in Denver. And I just think that is the most foolish thing ever, that where a quarterback is drafted does not predict how great that quarterback is going to be in that class. And you just look at going back all the way to the Elway draft class. Obviously, Elway drafted by the Colts. It is funny to me that the Denver Broncos have never drafted a quarterback and then developed it. We got Elway from the Colts. We also a different Colts at the time, but then we got Peyton Manning from the Colts. The best quarterback we've ever drafted and developed probably is Jay Cutler, right? But just, looking at this, you look at who is the 6th quarterback, the 6th best quarterback in the 1983 draft was Dan Marino. Yet, had he had any talent around him, the Miami Dolphins should have been a Super Bowl team, right? But we know that it was his team that let him down. Obviously, was Dan Marino better than Ken O'Brien that none of us know? Tony Eason, none of us know. Jim Kelly was a great quarterback, but on par with Dan Marino. Blackledge, I don't know a lot of these guys, right? And so the fact that we got Bo Nix as the 6th quarterback in this draft does not mean that he's going to be the 6th best. And the more I read about it, the more I think we have a rookie of the year candidate in Bo Nix. And don't take my word for it. Take Philip Rivers' word for it. Take RG3. Take all of these guys that I've mentioned. Take CJ Stroud, and take the fact that Sean Payton wants this pick to hit. His neck is out on the line, and he has mortgaged the future with moving on from Russell Wilson, and he doesn't have as long of a leash as everyone thinks he does, because we have the richest owner in sports. And if this ends up being a bust and we shipped Russ off and Russ makes a playoff run with Pittsburgh, you think that the richest owner in sports is going to sit idly by? So no one needs this to work more than Sean Payton, which makes me just really be high on this. I was looking at the 2018 NFL draft. You got Sam Darnold not starting, right? He's a backup in the Vikings. Josh Rosen, I don't think he's even in the league. And you look, Baker Mayfield's bounced around, but not with the team that drafted him. Josh Allen has never gotten it done. And you look at the 5th quarterback in that draft is the NFL league MVP. And truly probably the best quarterback in that draft was the 5th quarterback in that draft. Definitely not the 1st or the 2nd or the 4th. And so that's just a really telling thing. You look here, I was looking through, this is all of the quarterbacks ranked in this class, and you go down and who is the best quarterback in this draft class? Yeah, it's going to be the last quarterback taken, or I guess the second to last quarterback taken, and Brock Purdy is better than all of these guys, better than Desmond Ridder, better than Howell, better than Kenny Pickett, better than Willis. And obviously we look here, the the 2019 draft class. Kyler, I think they're still giving him a run, but Drew Lock was the second quarterback in that draft. He's not on our team anymore. Haskins is off the team. Daniel Jones was the 4th round, and we just keep going down. And what you find is Jarrett Stidham, you could make an argument there that he's better than Drew Lock, who was drafted at the 2nd spot. The Giants are moving on from Daniel Jones as soon as they can. And then just looking here, this one was really interesting. All the quarterbacks taken before Dak Prescott, and you could easily argue, I know the Lions have kind of redeemed Jared Goff, but the Rams moved on from him. And you just look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's the 8th quarterback in that draft class, and he is the best quarterback in that draft class. So the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm thinking the Denver Broncos did not luck out. Well, we did luck out, but we didn't settle on Bo Nix. Bo Nix was our guy then, and he's going to be the guy who gets us to the playoffs, and I am so excited. I got more great stats to break down for y'all now in our next video, but I always try to go under 12 minutes, so I won't even go at that now. But just realize that our draft class was insane, and can't wait to break it down all with you tomorrow. Denver Broncos country, let's giddy up.